Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are wading into waters that, let's be honest, are usually muddy with anxiety, conflicting advice, and a whole lot of emotional baggage. We're talking about fertility.
Hmm.
But I want to be clear right out of the gate. We are not talking about relaxing and letting it happen. We aren't talking about old wives' tales
I'm
or,
sorry.
the position of the moon.
Thank goodness for that. Please, nobody do that.
We are tossing the calendar out the window for a second to look at something much more fundamental. We're looking at this through the lens of biological engineering.
Right.
We have a fascinating protocol from the Berkeley Center for Reproductive Wellness. They're a clinic in New York City that deals with these really complex fertility cases, and their approach is so different from the standard take a prenatal and wait advice.
It really is.
Their whole philosophy, and this is the core of what we're exploring today, is that conception isn't a lottery. It's a biological event that depends entirely on the internal environment.
It's a massive shift in mindset. Usually when we talk about fertility, we treat it like a scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
Did the egg show up? Was the sperm there on time? It's all about logistics.
Right, like trying to catch a bus. If you miss the 5:00 p.m., you're just out of luck.
Exactly. But the materials we're breaking down today argue that fertility is actually a chemistry problem, or, to be more precise, a bioengineering challenge. It's about the raw materials you have available to build a human.
Okay.
The Berkeley Center argues that by using targeted, personalized nutrition, you can fundamentally alter gene expression, repair DNA, and, control the hormonal landscape.
That sounds incredibly high-tech, but we're just talking about nutrition. I think most people hear nutrition for fertility and think, okay, eat more spinach, maybe cut out caffeine.
Sure.
You're implying this goes way deeper than a salad.
Oh, it is light years beyond the salad.
Right.
We aren't talking about eating healthy in some general sense. We are talking about using nutrients as pharmacological tools. We're looking at specific biochemical pathways, how a specific molecule modulates inflammation, or how a vitamin facilitates DNA replication. It's moving from general wellness to strategic biochemistry.
I like that distinction because wellness can feel so vague. Strategic biochemistry sounds like a plan.
It is a plan.
So let's look at the foundation then. The source material groups this internal environment into 3 pillars: hormone balance, gamete quality, so the sperm and egg, and healthy early development. Why group them?
Because they're all downstream effects of the same root causes.
Yeah.
You can't compartmentalize the body,
Right.
The philosophy here is that you cannot trick the body into fertility if the foundation is crumbling. The body is incredibly smart. It prioritizes survival over reproduction. So if you have chronic inflammation or if your cells lack the raw materials to synthesize DNA, the body senses that. It perceives the environment as unsafe for a pregnancy.
So it's a protective mechanism. The body just says, supply chain issues, shut down the factory.
That is a perfect analogy. And it's not just theory. The source cites a big systematic review. I think it was in Fertility and Sterility from 2019. They analyzed preconception nutritional optimization.
Which is the clinical term for fixing your diet and supplements before you even start trying to conceive.
Yes. And the finding was stark. It wasn't just that people felt better. It significantly reduced the time to pregnancy.
And that is the metric that matters. When you are in that waiting game, every month feels like a decade.
It does. And biologically, time to pregnancy is often a reflection of how many obstacles the reproductive system is facing. By addressing the nutrient status, you are literally removing the roadblocks. You're turning all the traffic lights green.
Okay, let's get into the weeds then, because if we're going to engineer this, we need the specs. The Berkeley Center highlights a few heavy hitters. The first one is folate. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here because folic acid is on every cereal box, every prenatal vitamin. Is this really a deep dive topic? It feels pretty standard.
It feels standard, but it's actually one of the most misunderstood and critical areas. And for you listening, if you take one thing away today, let it be this. Folic acid and folate are not the same thing.
Okay, let's unpack that because I definitely use them interchangeably.
Most people do. The source makes a critical distinction between synthetic folic acid and methylated folate, specifically 5-MTHF.
5-MTHF, got it.
Think of folic acid as raw wheat. It's an ingredient straight from the field. But your cells, they can't eat raw wheat. They need bread. Methylated folate is the bread. It's baked, it's sliced, it's ready to be used by the cell immediately.
So folic acid is the precursor, the raw material.
Yes. When you ingest synthetic folic acid, the stuff in fortified foods and cheap vitamins, your body has to run it through a complex biochemical assembly line to convert it into the active form, 5-MTHF.
And I assume, like most assembly lines, things can go wrong.
Big time. A significant portion of the population carries a genetic variation on the MTHFR gene.
MTHFR. It looked like an internet acronym for a swear word.
It certainly feels like one when you find out you have it and nobody told you. If you have this variation, and we're talking up to 40, maybe 60% of people, that assembly line is sluggish or broken.
Wait. So you could be taking the standard prenatal, eating fortified cereal, thinking you were doing everything right?
And your cells are actually starving for folate.
Wow.
Precisely. And in fact, that unmetabolized folic acid can build up, which some research suggests isn't great either. The Berkeley Center points to a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition a few years back. It found that for women with these genetic quirks, supplementing with methylated folate was the only way to significantly improve blood folate levels.
The synthetic stuff just wasn't cutting it.
It wasn't doing the job.
Okay, so we need the active form. We need the bread, not the wheat. But why? Let's go deeper. What is it actually doing in the machinery?
It's the architect. Folate is required for DNA synthesis and repair. Now, think about conception. What is actually happening?
Cells meeting, combining, splitting, a lot of splitting.
The most rapid cell division a human body ever experiences. You're creating a new human genome from scratch. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy that DNA map perfectly.
Right.
If you don't have enough active folate, you get errors in the code. You get DNA fragmentation.
Which sounds bad.
It's catastrophic for a tiny embryo.
Yeah.
This is why we associate folate with preventing neural tube defects. But, and this is a huge point the source makes, we usually only tell women to worry about this.
Right. It's always the woman's responsibility. Take your vitamins.
But biological engineering takes two. Think about sperm. Sperm are constantly being produced, millions of them. They are dividing like crazy. They need massive amounts of DNA integrity.
Okay.
If the male partner has that MTHFR gene and isn't getting methylated folate, the DNA payload in the sperm can be fragmented.
So he might have a high sperm count, the logistics are fine, but the code inside is corrupted.
Exactly. You might get fertilization, but the embryo can't develop because the blueprint is damaged. This is a common cause of recurrent early loss or unexplained infertility that just gets overlooked.
That is a massive insight. It shifts the burden from just the woman to the entire equation.
It does. And the source also emphasizes that this need doesn't stop at a positive pregnancy test. Postpartum recovery is another huge blind spot.
I feel like postpartum nutrition advice is usually just drink water and try to sleep, which is impossible advice.
It is woefully inadequate. After birth, the mother's body has undergone a massive trauma. Tissue needs to be rebuilt. Blood volume needs to regulate. Cellular repair requires, you guessed it, folate.
The architect is needed for renovations, too.
Exactly. It's a continuum, not a finish line.
Okay, so folate is the architect. Let's move to the next pillar. Omega-3s, EPA and DHA. Again, I see this on labels for heart health. Why is this in a fertility protocol?
If folate is the architect, omega-3s are the peacekeepers and the structural engineers. The key word here is inflammation.
Inflammation is such a buzzword, though. What does that actually mean in a reproductive context? Is the uterus, like, physically swollen?
It's more about signaling noise. Think of your hormones as a radio broadcast. The ovaries, the pituitary, the uterus, they're all talking to each other. Chronic inflammation is like static on the line.
So the signals don't get through.
Or they get misinterpreted. And physically, inflammation can be a barrier to implantation. If the uterine lining is inflamed, the immune system is on high alert. It becomes hostile. It can see the embryo not as a baby, but as a foreign invader.
Oh, wow. So your own immune system can attack the pregnancy.
In a sense, or just prevent attachment.
Yeah.
Omega-3s modulate this. They calm the system down. But for women, there is an even more specific mechanism involving something called prostaglandins.
Prostaglandins. I know this from period cramps. The bad guys.
Yes, they cause contraction. But you actually need some of them. Balanced prostaglandin production is crucial for ovulation, literally helping the egg burst from the follicle. And it's what prepares the uterine lining.
So it's a Goldilocks situation.
It's a Goldilocks situation. Too much is bad, but you need the right inflammatory response for the mechanics to work. Omega-3s help regulate that balance.
That's fascinating. So it's not just anti-inflammatory. It's more like inflammation tuning.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, does this apply to men, too?
Hugely. Sperm are very fatty cells.
That sounds unappealing.
Biologically, it's necessary. The membrane of a sperm cell, its outer wall, is loaded with these fats. Why? Because it needs to be fluid. It needs to be, for lack of a better word, squishy.
Squishy.
Think about what a sperm has to do. It swims a marathon, and then it has to fuse with the egg wall. If the cell membrane is rigid because it's full of the wrong kinds of fats, that fusion can't happen.
So a rigid sperm is a failed sperm.
A rigid sperm is a slow sperm and a sperm that can't fuse. There was an observational study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism that found men with higher DHA had significantly better morphology, the shape and motility, the swimming ability.
It's basic mechanics. You have to oil the gears.
And let's bring it back to the baby. The human brain is 60% fat,
Right. We're just walking lumps of fat and water with anxiety.
with electricity running through it. But during the third trimester, that baby's brain growth explodes. If the mother is depleted of DHA,
The baby will take it.
it will strip it from the mother's own stores, from her brain tissue. This is a leading biological theory for mommy brain and even postpartum depression. The depletion of omega-3s in the mother's brain affects her own neurotransmitter function.
That is
That-
terrifying, but also validating. It's not just being tired. It's a physiological depletion.
Exactly. The Berkeley Center is clear that nutrient needs increase postpartum. You're recovering, producing milk, and rebuilding your own brain. If you go into that depleted, the crash is inevitable.
So we've covered the DNA architect, folate, and the peacekeepers, omega-3s, but let's zoom out to the hormonal picture. We talk about estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. Do vitamins really push these massive hormonal levers?
They are the fuel for the livers.
Yeah.
Hormones don't just appear out of nowhere. Your body manufactures them. To make progesterone, the progestation hormone, you need things like vitamin B6 and zinc. To clear out excess estrogen, your liver needs specific compounds,
So if you're nutrient deficient, the production line just halts.
or the waste management system fails. And then there is the cortisol connection, the stress hormone. When your body is nutrient deprived, it perceives that as a biological stressor. Cortisol spikes.
And I know cortisol and progesterone compete. The cortisol steal?
Exactly. They share a precursor molecule. If your body is stressed from work, lack of sleep, or malnutrition, it will prioritize making cortisol to survive over making progesterone to reproduce.
Because the body thinks, we are running from a tiger. This is a terrible time to have a baby.
Precisely. The internal environment signals danger. By optimizing these nutrients, you are hacking that signal. You're sending a chemical message to your whole system. We are safe. Resources are abundant. Proceed.
That makes so much sense. But here's the problem. We learn all this, then we walk into a pharmacy. There are 50 different bottles, and most people just grab the one a day. The source calls this the one-size-fits-all trap.
It is a trap. And honestly, it's a waste of money and time. The Berkeley Center is very clear on this. Bioindividuality is real. We talk about the MTHFR gene. That's just one variable.
Right.
You might have gut absorption issues. You might need 10 times the amount of vitamin D as your neighbor. A generic multivitamin is designed for the average person to prevent, like scurvy. It's not designed to optimize reproductive machinery.
Preventing scurvy is a very low bar for creating a human life.
It is the absolute floor, not the ceiling. That's why the approach this source advocates for is a supplement needs analysis.
That sounds intense, but necessary. What does that look like?
It's a deep dive into your data. They assess exactly which nutrients you are missing and, crucially, in what form you need them.
So no guessing.
No guessing. If you need methylated folate, they tell you. If you need a specific ratio of EPA to DHA, they tell you. And they pair this with customized meal plans, because you can't out-supplement a bad diet.
I love that, because so much diet advice is just cut carbs or eat keto, and it doesn't account for what your specific body actually needs.
And for some women, cutting carbs might crash their thyroid function, which tanks their fertility. For others, it might be the magic bullet. The generic advice fails. It's not about what worked for your friend on Instagram. It's about what your blood work is saying.
So if you are listening and you feel like you've been throwing spaghetti at the wall, this might be the missing piece. The Berkeley Center for Reproductive Wellness focuses on this data-driven approach. They are in New York City. We have their number here, 212-685-0985. It seems like getting this data up front could save so much heartache.
It's about empowerment. Fertility challenges can feel so disempowering. You feel like your body is broken. This approach flips the script. It says, your body isn't broken, it's just under-resourced. Let's give it the tools.
It changes the narrative from I'm a failure to I'm an engineer.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And frankly, this applies to the men too. We cannot stress enough that 50% of the genetic material comes from the father. If his internal environment is inflamed and nutrient depleted, that affects the embryo just as much.
That is such a critical takeaway. It takes two to tango, and it takes two to optimize.
Absolutely.
So let's wrap this up. We've gone from just trying to preparing. We've seen how methylated folate isn't just a vitamin, it's the zipper that holds your DNA together. We've seen how omega-3s are the traffic controllers for your immune system.
And how it sets you up for the long haul. Because the goal isn't just a positive pregnancy test. The goal is a healthy baby and a healthy, functioning parent at the end of it.
Exactly. The finish line isn't conception, it's the rest of your life.
Correct.
It's a lot to digest, pun intended, but it's incredibly hopeful. It really puts the control back in your hands.
It does, and that's the most important thing. You aren't just a passenger in this process. You can be the driver.
I want to leave you with a thought today. We often talk about our genetics like they're a script that's already been written. I have bad genes or it runs in the family. But if a specific nutrient can physically repair a break in a DNA strand, if the food on your plate can change the way your genes express themselves, how much of our genetic destiny is actually written in stone? And how much is written on our dinner plate?
That is the question.
Something to chew on. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.